Hello friends, myself Professor Shantaya V. Gurmat, Department of Botany, MGVC Arts, Commerce and Science College, Madhya Bihar, Karnataka State. Friends, today's class we discuss about pollination and then types of pollination. Pollination is the transference of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower or of another flower of the same or sometimes allied species, often through a various agents such as wind, insects, etc. Pollination is basically of two kinds. One is self-pollination and another one is cross-pollination. First we discuss about self-pollination. The adaptations of self-pollination meet with the flower to achieve self-pollination. Number one is homogamy. Homos means same. This is the condition in which the anthers and the stigmas of a bisexual flower mature at the same time. Under this condition, some of the pollen grains may reach the stigma of the same flower or through the agents of insects or wind or by sudden bursting of the anther, thus affecting self-pollination. Then next one is cleistogamy. Cleistos means closed. There are many bisexual flowers which never open. They are called cleistogamous or closed flowers. And self-pollination is the rule in them. Cleistogamy is seen in the underground flowers of Camellia bengalensis and also some species of balsam, sundew and etc. Next one is the cross-pollination. Cross-pollination or allogamy. Cross-pollination is brought about by external agents such as insects, means bees, flies, moths, etc. Animals like birds, snails, etc. Wind and water. Cross-pollination is the rule in unisexual flowers, while in bisexual flowers it is of general occurrence. Nature favors cross-pollination and therefore adaptation in flowers to achieve it through external agents are many and varied. First one is entomophily. Entomon means an insect. Phylline means to love. Pollination by insects is a very general occurrence among flowers. Entomophilous or insect-loving flowers have various adaptations by which they attract insects and use them as conveyors of pollen grains for the purpose of pollination. The principal adaptations are mainly three kinds. One is the color, nectar and scent. First one is color. One of the most important adaptations in the color of the petals, in the respect of brighter the color and the more irregular the shape of the flower, the greater the attraction. Sometimes when flowers themselves are not conspicuous, other parts may become colored and showy to attract insects. The best example is Musunda. Another one is nectar. Another important adaptations in nectar, nearly all flowers with gamopetalous corolla secrete nectar, which is a positive attraction to more clever insects like bees. Nectar is contained in a special gland called a nectary and sometimes in a special structure called the spore. The nectary occurs at the base of one of the floral whorls, and as the bees, which are very active pollinating agents, collect the nectar from the nectary or the spore, they incidentally bring about pollination. And lastly, we discussed about scent. The third adaptation is scent. Most nocturnal flowers are insect loving and emit a sweet scent at night to attract insects from distance. At night, when the color is not visible and the scent is particularly useful in directing insects to the flowers. Thus, nocturnal flowers are mostly sweat smelling. Common examples are night jasmine, and next one is queen of the night, jasmines, rangoon creeper, etc. Next one is we discuss about the another adaptations, that is anemophily. Anemos means wind. In some cases, pollination is brought about by wind. Anemophilous or wind-loving flowers are small and inconspicuous. They are never colored or showy. They do not emit any smell, nor do they secrete any nectar. The anthers produce in immense quantity. The pollen grains wastage during transit from one flower to the another being considerable. They are also light and dry. Sometimes, as in pine, they provide with wings or facility of distribution by wind. The stigmas are comparatively large and producing, sometimes branched and often feathery. Examples are offered by grasses, bamboos, cereals, millets, sugarcanes, etc. Pollination in maize. The plant bears a large number of male flowers, means spikelets, in a terminal panicle, and lower down it bears one or two female spadaces with the tuft of fine, long, and silky threads, the styles hanging from them. When the anthers burst, a cloud of dust like pollen grains seen floating in the air. Should the plant, some of them are caught by the protruding stigmas, and thus pollination is affected. By far, the greater majority of the pollen grains are, however, blown away and wasted. And next one is hydrophily. Hydro means water. Pollination may also be brought about in some aquatic plants, particularly the submerged ones, through the agency of water. The best example is Vallisneria, Hydrilla, etc. Those aquatic plants that lift their flowers above the water level normally achieve pollination through insect or the wind. Hydrophilous flowers are, as a rule, small and inconspicuous. Pollination in Vallisneria. Vallisneria is the best example in hydrophily. The mode of pollination in this plant is as follows. Vallisneria is dioecious and submerged. The male plant bears a large number of very minute male flowers in a small spadix, surrounded by a spathe and borne on a short stalk, while the female plant bears solitary female flowers, each on a long slender stalk. The stalk quickly elongates and lifts the female flowers to the surface of the water. The spathe bursts and the male flowers are released from the spadix while still closed and float on the surface of the water. The perianth expands, giving buoyancy to them. Some of the floating male flowers come in contact with the female flowers, the anther dices, and some of the sticky pollen grains adhere to the margins and surface of the tripped stigmas, which then close up. After pollination, the stalk of the female flowers becomes spirally coiled and thus pulps the female flowers. The fruit develops and matures under the water a little above the bottom. And next one is the zoophily. Zoophily means June means animal. Birds, bats, snails also act as useful agents of pollination. For example, birds and sometimes squirrels bring about pollination in the coral trees, silk cotton, rose apple, bignonia, etc. Bats do so in the Anthocephalus and snails in certain large varieties of aroids and snake plant. Uh, Next one, the advantages and disadvantages of self and cross pollination. Next one is we discuss about the very important part is uh, this is the advantages and disadvantages of self and cross pollination. Self pollination has the advantage, it is almost certain in a bisexual flower, provided that both its stamens and carpels have matured at the same time. Continued self pollination, generation after generation, has, however, disadvantages that it results in weaker progeny. The advantages of cross pollination are many, as first shown in Charles Darwin in the year 1876. Number one is it always results in much healthier offspring which are better adapted to the struggle for existence. Second point is more abundant and viable seeds are produced by this method. The third method is germinating capacity is much better. And fourth one is new varieties. New varieties. And the next one is the fifth one is the adaptability of the plants to their environment is better by this method. The advantages of cross pollination are that the plants have to depend on external agencies for the purpose, and this being the process is more or less precarious and also seen economical, as various devices have to be adopted to attract pollinating agents. There is also a considerable waste of material, means the pollen, when wind is the pollinating agent. Okay. Thank you, friends. We meet in the next video.